Hey guys, in this video I'm just going to go over my Stampede and Hammer of the Gods Warrior Titan dude. Pretty good, pretty well-rounded, pretty smooth compared to most Warrior stuff that I've seen. So this is definitely my current preference, and maybe I'll find some other stuff that's better than this, but for now this is what I'm playing, pretty much one-to-one. So it's good, try it. Alright, so I'm just going to go over gems and gear and passive tree. So Hammer of the Gods, our main single target skill. So it's mostly doing bleed damage, does have ignite, and does have still a good hit damage portion. So basically we want to Infernal Cry before we drop this on something, so it does the most damage. And if the target is heavy stun, we can also Seismic Cry to guarantee an extra Aftershock. So Deep Cuts, Lacerate, these are all bleeding stuff. Heavy Swing, Heft, and Fist of War. You could drop Lacerate if you get enough bleed chance for something else for damage. Stampede, this is our main clearing skill. It feels the fastest to me. I think auto attack, like some kind of auto attack is actually pretty good too, comparable. You can try whatever you like more, but I've been using Stampede. I like the hybrid of moving. You do get stuck on monsters and it's a little clunky sometimes. You're bumping into shit, but I think it still pays out better than any other choice here, so. More AoE, Aftershock, quality is really good on this. Same with Hammer of the Gods, quality on both of these, very important. Armor Explosion, Devastate, good combo. You'll get this like gigantic ripple explosion effect, but you can just swap these out with just raw damage, like momentum and stuff like that, if you want to do that, and just dodge Armor Explosion, Devastate. It's also going to synergize pretty well with the Herald of Ash explosions. We got like 3 different things that are exploding that are kind of synergizing. Sunder, this is kind of a filler skill. It's mostly used for boss damage. Whenever the boss is armor broken from our totems, we can Sunder and guarantee a crit. That's why I have super critical here. It's going to do a lot of damage. It's going to apply a big ignite and a big bleed, but it's not going to be as much as Hammer of the Gods. It's mostly used as a filler skill. If our Hammer of the Gods is on cooldown on a single target, we can drop a Sunder. Or if we need to play safe or blow up a lot of trash mobs, we also have that option, because it's going to do pretty good damage against rares, whereas Stampede isn't going to do that much damage against rare mobs. Leap Slam, Holy Descent, really important. It gives a crap ton of regen. I forget how much it is. It's like 5%, yeah. Which is a lot in this game, because there's very little regen available. So Holy Descent, really good. Just some utility, a little bit of damage stuff. This can still kill white mobs, and it's kind of clunky, but it can get you out of situations when you're surrounded, so kind of mostly for Holy Descent and a little bit of mobility, but it can do some damage. Warrior Totem, this is mostly just to drop on bosses. Rupture, Aggravate, Bleed. Aggravate, Bleed is really important. Double damage on your bleeds, so this will attempt to proc it. I think the way Aggravating Bleed, I'm not sure 100% works in this game, is it's going to pick one random bleed on the target, so in some scenarios, I would say it's probably better, like on a really hard boss, to use like I think it's Bloodlust gem. I don't know where it is. Bloodlust, yeah, this, so that your totem can't like proc its own bleeds and stuff like that, because that can get annoying. And then it's like fishing for the right bleed to aggravate, because it can only aggravate one bleed at a time. And if there's like 12 different bleeds from all these things hitting it, like your totems, it can be annoying. So basically, Rupture, good. Aggravate, good. Some little utility stuff, lower regen. You can put Font of Rage or whatever it's called, the Rage Generation 1-2 here, but mostly just dropping a totem to provide some debuffs on the target and some buffs. Sets up our Sunder. Infernal Cry, this is our main War Cry that we're using, so we just throw all of our stuff on it. This solves mana issues on it, because it normally costs a crap ton of mana with all these supports. So Life Tap good, Daze for a little bit of stun garbage. You can actually drop this out completely if you want on bosses, but I have it on there still. And then just like damage stuff. You're not always going to have 10 rage with, depending on, like, the boss and stuff that you're fighting, but it's good. Seismic Cry, preferably use this when the target is heavy stun, but has a little bit of utility with, like, a mini knockback and stuff. Then Auras, Time of Need, we just load it up with a lot of sustain stuff. A lot of these are really good. Herbalism, Vitality, and Cannibalism are all really good for sustain. It's going to make a massive difference in your survivability for, like, recovery. Recovery, really good. So we just juice it up with recovery stuff. You can use things like, what's it called? Scavenge Plating, or Attrition on a boss, or Overwhelming Presence for stun. There's some options there, but these are what I'm using right now. This is like mostly a mapping setup, so I'll just go to the passive tree right now then. So I have it set up to where my weapon set 1, you don't have to do this, but weapon set 1 is going to do map clearing. It's mostly AoE. All the AoE and speed type stuff I think is reasonable to take. So I take a lot of AoE, I take a lot of speed. I actually don't take that much damage in my mapping setup. I just make sure I have bleed capped, so I kept my bleed. So I have like this bleed stuff, and then I make sure I get enough attributes to use my weapon. More attack speed stuff, like here, skill speed, attack speed stuff, helps a little bit with mana too. And then my bossing setup is a little different, where it's like I take the speed stuff out, and I put in like raw damage stuff instead for scaling bleed damage. And there's like AoE cooldown stuff, really good. You know, there's a ton of AoE here, take advantage of it. Click a lot of AoE stuff, cooldown stuff for hammer, because we don't want to be waiting too long on our hammer. Anything else that's important? You don't have to take IR if you don't have any evasion. I have a little bit, so it's worth it for me to click. And, you know, you can plug it and play it and move it around as you need. Take a lot of strength stuff to try and beat Giant's Blood Rack. Aftershocks here is good. Aftershocks is really good with Stampede for a map clear. So, Vocal Empowerment, really good while mapping. It's going to give that extra charge on your Infernal Cry. We don't really care to generate endurance charges. It takes a lot of effort. You could potentially like put like break endurance on Stampede or something like that if you want to. It's not bad for sure. But like I said, AoE, and then if you want more EHP stuff with your shield, you're going to click block nodes. I only have 2 clicked. It would be nice to be able to click more, but I don't have the points right now. I'm only like level 93 or something on this character. So block is really going to help your survivability in maps. But gear, keep in mind I'm SSF, so I don't get to really pick and choose my stats on my gear, so my weapon is kind of whatever, just damage. Attributes is good. Things like melee gems, attack speed. There's a lot of mods here that can spawn on the suffixes that are quite good. Stun related mods, stun duration, stun build up. They're all pretty useful. You can use, I might have a weapon to show you. Maybe not, I'm not sure. Like, I think I have a soul core for it. So soul core can roll this, can help you with Giant's Blood, but just make sure you do the math on calculator, because it can make it easier, but you'll just need some dex on it. But dex also works with attrition, so because you're going to need dex for attrition, so having some amount of dex is pretty good. I have 95 dex. I have a dex roll on one of my pieces of gear, 1 or 2 pieces of my gear, so dex is not that bad of a stat if you make use of it. But other than that, we're getting a lot of strength. You can also get your bleeding cap from here. It's not bad, but we prefer to use Fizz if possible, but this is totally justifiable to sock it if you need to cap your bleed chance that way. And then, alright, let's go over, we looked at weapon, shield, block chance, really good on paper, EHP, it's going to really make you a lot tankier to trash mobs. Higher block chance is good, life is good. PDR, physical damage reduction, like that mod right there is really good, if you can get it. Otherwise, just like resist, strength type stuff. Helmet, life, we want a lot of life. Armor is really important, this actually has bad armor. You can make use of mana too. Some amount of mana pool is important. And then like resist and stuff like that, and I have like 2% life here socketed. Ideally you can do this and like you want to do this, but it's pretty hard moving resist around. Like just socketing resist type stuff is safer in general, but I'm kind of greedy here, and it's kind of a, you know, a bitch to like move my gear around constantly with my resist changing and stuff. But body armor, you want big armor. Big armor helps a lot. Life helps a lot, and then, you know, just generic suffixes, strength, resist. You can get Spirit on chest too, but I think life and armor are probably higher prio, even over Spirit. But Spirit is good for sure if you do get it. Amulet, Spirit, life. Life percentage is extremely strong mod, probably the strongest. I don't have it on my amulet, but life percentage is going to give you a lot of mileage to your health pool. And then, you know, generic suffixes, strength, resist. There's also melee gems you can get. Same with weapons on melee gem. Another thing, if you have a melee gem weapon and you're having issues with mana, it's probably justifiable to take some of this kind of stuff and convert some of your mana cost to life, assuming you have any amount of sustain on your character. But you can, if you are pathed like this, you can take some of this to help your mana cost so that your character doesn't use his entire mana pool whenever he casts any ability. Mana Leech will also help with that, so some kind of combination, because at the end of the day, melee gems is probably going to be one of the best suffixes on weapons, but you can also get it on like gloves, melee gems on gloves, and melee gems on amulet. Since we're here on Anoint, I don't know what actually is the best because I haven't run into this situation because I'm SSF and they don't like dropping you oils. I'm just using this. It's really cheap and it's generically good for mapping and bossing, but there's other stuff you can take like this. Bleeding. If you are, you can do the thing. I was pathed in here before. Pathing down here. I think pathing down here in general is better, but pathing here is fine too. That's what I did for a long time, because you get a lot of bleed stuff. It's a lot available, and there's generic two-hand stuff. There's a lot of good stuff here too. But you can anoint Polymathy if you are in the middle. That works too. Rings. Breach rings are definitely going to be best, but you know, just whatever rings you can get. Life, resistances, leech, mod, strength. Just try to get as much mileage as you can out of your rings. Like this ring is just helping me with like dex and stuff like that, attributes. All of this ring is just like stacked with everything pretty much. No strength though, unfortunately. Neither of my rings have strength. That would be preferred on both. Gloves. Gloves come with a lot of mods. I would say the highest value mod is probably attack speed. It goes up to like 16% or so. But also good life. Good life. The attack speed helps a ton though. I would say like life and attack speed. Prio #1 at the top. Otherwise you can just get like resist, stats, leech mods, melee gems. There's some stuff there. Belts. Charms are dog shit, I'm pretty sure. I see borderline 0 value in charms across the board. I just use a rarity one for some extra loot, but flash charge mods are actually really good in this game. Anything flash charge gain related, the implicit with flash charges over getting flash charges every so many seconds. What else is there? The life recovery mod, I believe its prefix is very, very strong on belt, but you know, we're doing life prio here again. Strength is good, resists are good, stuff like that. Boots, you know, highest movement speed you can get, 30 or 35. I don't even feel like I would want to put on boots that were even 20 movement speed, maybe 25 at the lowest. Movement speed's really hard to get. It helps a ton. So movement speed, life, these boots are pretty bad. I'm gonna switch to these boots. I don't know all the unique items in the game. I haven't looked at the database, but the 3 unique items that are really good for this build are these. They drop off the Nameless King in the lowest tier. Aggravate bleeding is basically double damage. I don't have the correct setup quite yet to switch these on, but as soon as I do, I will use them. Rithlotha's Coil is also really good. Helps your bleed damage a ton. Is a belt option, and then Astromentus on the amulet is really good. All 3 of those are good. I'm sure there's probably a couple other uniques that are good. I just haven't looked at the whole database, but those are some items that help the build a ton. What else? Nothing else. Jewels. I don't have any time lost, but bleeding type stuff, rage when hit, rage on hit are all really good. Bleeding magnitude, bleeding duration, ailment duration, all that kind of stuff is really good for your damage. Just generic stuff. I don't have a rage on hit. If you don't have a rage on hit, you can just click this one node here to get rage on hit. It's good to have even just one rage on hit. It's worth it. It's going to help prevent your rage decay. If you're not getting hit and you're not generating rage, your rage will start to decay really fast. I believe it's after like 2 seconds or so. I don't know if it actually tells you. Yeah, it's 2 seconds. So having one source of rage on hit and one source of rage when hit is really good for mapping. It also helps with bossing. Anything else that I think is that important to note? Like I said, I'm using a double spec setup, so it's kind of confusing to look at the doubles. I feel like the double weapon set thing is not very... The UI is kind of not clean, but basically what I'm doing, and I don't even know if it's that intended, whenever I fight a boss like a uber boss or whatever, or some shit that I think is kind of, you know, ultimatum boss or something, I'll switch my weapons to weapon set 1 versus weapon set 2, and it just changes the tree, essentially. I'm kind of using it like a, I don't know, like a WoW dual spec instead of actually weapon swapping. Like true weapon swapping would be better if I had 3 of these, but I only have 1 weapon. Like dual wielding with Sunder is really, really strong. Hammer of the Gods with dual wielding isn't that good because you're mostly scaling the dot, but skills that focus on the raw hit damage, like Sunder, for example, would be really, really strong dual wielding, like extremely powerful dual wielding, but it's a lot of work and effort, and I'm just taking advantage of essentially not having to respec every time I fight a boss, so I'm just like kind of dual specking it. So that's pretty much the warrior stuff. It's constantly changing. I'm constantly learning new things and finding out new things and experimenting and playing around every single day. Every so many hours I'm changing stuff, moving pieces around. But that's pretty much warrior stuff. I'm sure it'll be different. My perspective will probably be different in some amount of days, but that's currently my setup. So Um,